long before the cities we know today were even a whisper in the minds of our ancestors, the earth was held in a gentle, icy slumber. Vast, magnificent glaciers, towering miles high and shining with a deep, luminescent blue, covered much of the northern hemisphere. For thousands of years, these oceans of ice rested in absolute stillness, holding the world in a quiet, frozen embrace. But nothing in the natural world remains still forever. The planet, in its ancient wisdom, began to slowly turn its face back toward the warmth of the sun. The change did not happen in a single, jarring moment. There was no chaos. It was simply a gradual, patient softening. Imagine standing at the foot of one of these immense ice walls. You can hear it long before you see it. The deep, resonating hum of an awakening world. As the sunlight touched the ancient ice, it began to weep. Single, crystalline drops of water, purer than anything we have ever tasted, began to fall. One drop, then another, joining together in a slow, winding trickle over the smooth, blue surface of the glacier. This was the meltwater pulse, a slow, majestic release of the waters that had been locked away for an epoch. The rivers of ice began to shift, not with anger, but with the heavy, lethargic movement of a sleeping giant shifting beneath a heavy quilt. As the ice dissolved, it gave birth to thousands of winding rivers. These gentle streams carved their way through the newly exposed earth, carrying the memory of the winter down toward the distant sea. The oceans, fed by these endless streams of meltwater, began to rise. It was a creeping, imperceptible ascent, a millimeter a year, perhaps an inch over a lifetime. To the animals and early humans who walked the earth, the change was so gradual it felt simply like the breathing of the world. The coastlines slowly softened. Beaches were gently swallowed by the tide, turning terrestrial valleys into quiet, shallow bays. Think of the patience of the water. It holds no urgency. It does not rush. It simply fills the spaces it is given, smoothing the jagged edges of the world into perfect, rolling curves. The ocean embraced the land, folding it into the deep, quiet dark. Forests of pine and birch, valleys where ancient herds once grazed, were slowly submerged, becoming the silent domain of kelp forests and drifting currents. The landscape was not destroyed. It was simply transformed, preserved in the cold, still waters of a world moving into a new season. I'm going to now ask, politely of course, that you put your phone down and let my voice guide you to sleep. I'll be turning off the images now so that your eyes can get a break. If we were to drain the shallow waters of the North Sea today, we would not find a barren, sandy floor. We would find the ghost of a vast, forgotten continent. We call it Doggerland. Thousands of years ago, the space between the island of Britain and the coastline of Europe was not a sea at all. It was a lush, vibrant expanse of rolling hills, wide, lazy rivers, and deep, fragrant woodlands. It was a place teeming with life. Imagine walking through the tall, golden grasses of the Mammoth Steppe at twilight. The sun is sinking low on the horizon, painting the sky in soft strokes of lavender, bruised purple, and deep, calming orange. The air is cool, carrying the earthy scent of damp moss, crushed fern, and the faint, comforting smell of wood smoke. In the distance, resting beside a winding silver river, you can see the flickering glow of small fires. These are our ancestors. They are sitting together, wrapped in heavy furs, speaking in quiet, rhythmic languages that have long since faded from the earth. They are roasting roots, sharing stories, and listening to the wind move through the branches of the birch trees. To the people of Doggerland, the world was infinite and providing. The rivers were choked with silver fish, and the forests offered a quiet sanctuary. They built their lives in harmony with the gentle pulse of the seasons. But the great meltwater was still flowing. The oceans were still engaged in their slow, patient climb. Over generations, the people of Doggerland began to notice the subtle shifting of their world. A hunter might return to a familiar salt marsh in his twilight years, only to find the water reaching slightly higher up the reeds than it did when he was a boy. The changes were a gentle suggestion from the earth, a whisper telling them it was time to move. The water crept into the lowlands, turning vast plains into archipelagos of green islands. The people did not panic. They simply gathered their woven baskets, their carved bone tools, and their children, and began a slow, multi-generational migration toward the higher ground. They followed the rising sun, walking steadily eastward toward what is now the European mainland, or westward toward the chalky cliffs of Britain. As they walked away, the sea quietly claimed their former home. The cold, clear waters of the North Sea washed over the ashes of their campfires. Kelp began to root in the fertile soil where oak trees once stood. The valleys filled with the dark blue tranquility of the deep. Doggerland was not lost to a violent cataclysm. It was gently put to sleep beneath a blanket of water, returning to the silent embrace of the ocean. Chapter 3. Echoes of the Survivors. When a world shifts, it leaves behind an echo. The people of Doggerland, and those from countless other sunken coasts around the globe, carried the memory of the rising waters with them. They carried it not in books or stone tablets, but in the most resilient vessel known to humanity, the spoken story. Imagine an elder sitting by a fire on a high, safe cliff overlooking the newly formed sea. The waves are lapping rhythmically against the rocks far below. A group of children sits around her, their eyes heavy with sleep, listening to her voice. She speaks of a time before the water, of a sprawling green land where their grandfathers' grandfathers used to hunt. These stories became myths. They became the flood legends that echo in almost every ancient culture across the globe. From the Epic of Gilgamesh to the tales of the indigenous peoples of the Americas, the memory of the great meltwater was woven into the fabric of our collective consciousness. Sometimes, when we look back at these ancient stories, we project our modern anxieties onto them. We imagine them as tales of punishment or tragedy. But in their purest form, they are simply stories of transition. They are a testament to human resilience. The water rose, the landscape changed, and humanity simply adapted. We built boats. We learned to fish in the new, shallow seas. We found new valleys, planted new roots, and continued to live, to love, and to dream. There is a profound comfort in knowing that survival is, quite literally, written into your DNA. The people who walked away from the rising tides of Doggerland are your ancestors. Their ability to calmly face a changing world, to find safe harbor, and to start anew is a trait that lives inside you right now. When the anxieties of your daily life feel overwhelming, remember the deep, slow rhythm of history. The things that feel monumental today will eventually be smoothed over by the gentle tides of time. Just as the earth reshapes its coastlines without fear, you too have the capacity to adapt, to let go of what is receding, and to step gracefully onto higher ground. Let us leave the cold, dark waters of the north and drift gently toward the equator, down into the sunlit turquoise embrace of the Mediterranean. Here, the water does not feel heavy or imposing. It is warm, clear, and immensely inviting. Beneath these gentle waves lie the scattered remnants of some of humanity's earliest attempts to carve beauty from stone. Imagine a place like Pavlopetri, a city that was quietly resting on the ocean floor long before the first pages of ancient philosophy were ever written. Thousands of years ago, this was a thriving coastal haven. White marble streets reflected the intense, golden light of the Mediterranean sun. Courtyards were filled with the soft rustle of olive trees and the fragrant scent of blooming jasmine. People walked these pathways in woven linen, their sandals tracing paths through a city that felt as permanent as the earth itself. But the earth is a fluid masterpiece, always reshaping its canvas. The descent of this city into the sea was not a rapid collapse. It was a gradual, almost tender submission to the shifting tectonic plates beneath the surface. The ground slowly softened, lowering the city inch by inch, generation by generation, into the warm water. The ocean simply reached out and embraced the stone, folding the courtyards and the grand archways into its calm, aquatic sanctuary. Today, if you were to float above these ruins, you would see the perfect outlines of homes and streets resting quietly in the shallow blue. Schools of silver fish weave lazily through the remnants of ancient doorways. The olive trees have been replaced by the gentle swaying of sea anemones, catching the dappled sunlight as it filters through the surface. There is an incredible peace to be found here. The structures our ancestors built to withstand the ages did not fail. They were simply given a new purpose. They became reefs. They became sanctuaries. They remind us that even when the foundations of our lives seem to shift and lower, we are not falling into the abyss. We are just being held in a different way, enveloped by the quiet, enduring grace of the sea. Far away, at the very top of the world, there once existed a vast, sprawling kingdom of grass. We call it Beringia, a massive land bridge that once seamlessly connected the edges of Asia to the frontiers of North America. Today, we know this space as the Bering Strait, a stretch of deep, cold water. But in the time of the Great Ice, when the oceans were drawn back, it was a thriving, endless plain. Picture yourself standing in the center of this lost world. The landscape stretches out before you in every direction, an endless ocean of golden, swaying steppe grass. The sky above is impossibly wide, painted in the muted, calming colours of an Arctic twilight. Soft lilacs, pale pinks, and the deepening blue of the approaching night. The air is crisp and completely still, carrying the faint, earthy aroma of wild sage and damp soil. Through this quiet expanse, the giants of the ancient world made their slow, methodical journeys. Imagine watching a herd of woolly mammoths moving gracefully through the tall grass. Their massive, padded feet fall softly upon the earth, a low, rhythmic thud that vibrates gently through the soles of your shoes. They are in no hurry. They are simply following the seasons, moving with the patient, unhurried wisdom of creatures who deeply know the earth. For thousands of years, humans followed these herds, walking across a continent that would eventually vanish. They crossed the bridge between worlds, beneath the shimmering glow of the northern lights, carrying only what they needed, guided by the stars and the gentle contours of the land. And then, as the great meltwater pulsed through the world, the oceans began their slow return. The waters of the Chukchi and Bering Seas crept over the grassy plains. The migration routes were gently submerged. The land bridge did not wash away in a storm. It merely dissolved into the mist, slipping quietly beneath the waves. The connection between the continents was broken, but the journey was already complete. The people had crossed. The memory of the journey became a part of who they were. Sometimes, in our own lives, a path we once relied upon slowly disappears beneath the surface. A phase of life ends. A bridge softly fades away. But we do not need to mourn the crossing. The path was there exactly when we needed it, and now it rests peacefully in the depths, having fulfilled its beautiful purpose. Let your mind drift south toward the warm, humid embrace of Southeast Asia. Long before the archipelagos of Indonesia and Malaysia existed as scattered islands, they were part of a massive, continuous expanse of land known as Sundaland. It was a sprawling, tropical Eden covered in the most ancient, dense, and vibrant rainforests the world has ever known. Imagine walking beneath a canopy so thick and green that the sunlight reaches the forest floor only in scattered golden beams. The air here is heavy and deeply nourishing, humming with the quiet, persistent pulse of life. Massive ferns uncurl in the shadows, and rivers of clear, slow-moving water wind their way through the massive, moss-draped roots of towering hardwood trees. The people who lived in this lush expanse built their homes on elevated platforms along the slow rivers, weaving their lives seamlessly into the rhythm of the jungle. They listened to the gentle rain falling on the leaves at night, safe and sheltered in the heart of a boundless forest. But Sundaland, too, was destined to meet the rising tides. As the ice at the poles turned to water, the shallow seas began to stretch across the flat, tropical plains. The transition was incredibly slow, a peaceful merging of two thriving ecosystems. The rivers widened, becoming estuaries. The low-lying forests gracefully yielded to the encroaching saltwater. Imagine the surreal beauty of a tropical jungle slowly turning into an underwater paradise. Mangrove trees adapted, their intricate root systems becoming nurseries for thousands of tiny, iridescent fish. Where brightly coloured birds once flew from branch to branch, elegant manta rays began to glide through the submerged valleys. The canopy of leaves gradually transitioned into a canopy of vibrant, living coral. The land was not lost, it was simply repainted in the colours of the ocean. When we feel overwhelmed by the changes in our own environments, we can look to Sunderland. We can remember that a shift in our surroundings is often just an invitation to grow in a new direction. The landscape of your life may change, the waters may rise, but you will always find a way to adapt, to breathe, and to bloom in whatever waters you find yourself in. There is a place where time itself seems to fall completely asleep. Deep beneath the surface of the Black Sea, far below the reach of the sun, lies a layer of water entirely empty of oxygen. It is a zone of absolute stillness. There are no currents here. There is no decay. It is a vast, silent museum suspended in the dark. For centuries, merchant ships and ancient galleons have slipped beneath the waves of the Black Sea, making their slow, spiralling descent into the abyss. When they reach this deep, anoxic layer, something miraculous happens. They stop aging. Picture a beautifully crafted wooden vessel from the time of the Byzantine Empire, resting upright on the silty ocean floor. Its masts still reach toward the unseen sky. The intricately carved wood of its hull is perfectly intact, down to the deepest grooves made by the carpenter's tools thousands of years ago. The ropes, the clay amphorae, the wooden decks, all perfectly preserved, untouched by the slow degradation of time. There is a deep, comforting profoundness to this hidden world. It shows us that nothing is ever truly erased. The things we construct, the efforts we make, and the journeys we embark upon leave a permanent imprint on the world. In your own mind, there are quiet depths where your most beautiful memories are held in perfect suspension. When the surface of your mind is chaotic, when the waves of anxiety and daily stress are tossing you about, you can choose to let your awareness sink. Sink down past the noise of the day, past the turbulent currents of your thoughts, down into the deep, quiet spaces of your own consciousness. Here, in the stillness, everything you love is preserved perfectly. The good you have done, the quiet moments of joy you have experienced, they are completely safe. They are held in the dark, waiting patiently for you to find them again, resting in absolute peace. To truly understand the lost worlds of the past, we must look not just at the sunken ruins, but at the ice that remains. In the vast, pristine white expanses of Antarctica, scientists carefully drill deep into the glaciers, pulling up long, crystal-clear cylinders of ancient ice. These are the ice cores, the frozen libraries of the Earth. Imagine holding a piece of this ice in your hands. It is impossibly cold, perfectly smooth, and faintly blue. If you look closely, you will see millions of tiny, suspended bubbles trapped within the crystal structure. These bubbles are not empty space. They are tiny pockets of air that were caught in the falling snow thousands, even hundreds of thousands of years ago. When the snow compressed into ice, it sealed that air inside. Inside each of those tiny bubbles is the actual atmosphere of a lost world. When a piece of this ice melts, the bubbles gently pop, releasing a microscopic hiss. If you were standing there, you would be breathing the exact same air that the woolly mammoths breathed on the plains of Beringia. You would be breathing the air that carried the smoke of the campfires in Doggerland. It is a beautiful reminder of our intimate connection to the past. The breath of the ancestors, the exhalations of the ancient forests, the wind that blew across the unmapped oceans, it is all still here. It has just been waiting, held safely in the frost. We are constantly recycling the breath of the world. Every inhale you take is filled with the history of the earth. You are breathing in the legacy of ancient kings, of forgotten poets, of quiet farmers who watched the stars from the edges of the first seas. You are never isolated. You are intricately, beautifully connected to the entire, sprawling tapestry of human existence, bound together by the simple, rhythmic act of breathing. As our journey through these submerged histories draws to a close, let us look at what the ocean does with the things we leave behind. The sea is not a conqueror, it is a caretaker. When a stone temple, a wooden ship, or a concrete seawall slips into the ocean, it lies dormant only for a short while. Soon, the most delicate and persistent architects of the natural world arrive. Microscopic coral polyps, tiny, fragile creatures drifting on the gentle currents, find a resting place on the sunken structures. They attach themselves to the cold stone and begin to build. Over years, over decades, over centuries, they create intricate, branching towers of calcium. They paint the grey ruins in vibrant strokes of magenta, sun yellow, and deep indigo. Imagine an ancient, forgotten statue resting on the sea floor, its stone face looking up toward the surface. Over time, the statue is slowly enveloped by a blossoming coral reef. Sea fans sway rhythmically around its shoulders, moving in time with the deep breathing of the ocean. Small, iridescent fish dart playfully through the intricate limestone labyrinths that have grown over the ruins. The human creation has not been erased. It has been elevated. It has become the foundation for a vibrant, thriving community of life. The ocean takes our history and weaves it into its own beautiful, endless pattern of renewal. This is the ultimate promise of the natural world. Nothing is ever wasted. No effort is ever truly lost. Even the things we let go of, the things that sink beneath the surface of our lives, eventually become the fertile ground for something new and beautiful to grow. You do not need to hold tightly to the past. You can let the heavy things gently sink. Trust that the deep, patient currents of time will take what you have given and turn it into something vibrant, alive, and profoundly beautiful. And so, as the ancient oceans rise and fall in the theatre of your mind, it is time for you to finally let go. The journey through deep time is ending, and the journey into sleep is beginning. Bring your awareness gently back to the room you are in. Feel the quiet darkness wrapping around you, much like the comforting waters that blanketed Doggerland. The air in your room is still, peaceful, and entirely yours. Focus on the physical sensation of your body resting against the mattress. Notice the heavy, comfortable weight of your limbs. Imagine that with every exhale, you are sinking just a little bit deeper. Sinking past the surface of the day, past the noise and the light, down into the cool, dark, quiet depths of the ocean. Your breathing is the tide. Inhale, the water draws back. Exhale. The water sweeps gently over the sand. There is nothing left for you to solve tonight. There are no maps you need to read, no migrations you need to make. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. Safe, warm, sheltered from the wind. Let the image of the frozen coastline slowly dissolve. Let the ancient forests fade into the gentle blackness behind your eyelids. Let the sound of the meltwater wash away the final remnants of your waking thoughts. You are a part of the earth, and the earth is resting. It is time for you to rest too. Drift down, sink deep. Give yourself permission to surrender to the quiet. Good night.